hurt. So, the NCAA, they are in a great spot where they're just making billions and billions of dollars. The leagues are kind of with them because they want them. They're getting these athletes at a much later time, so they don't have to pay them to go through minor leagues like they would in baseball. Because for the most part, minor league baseball, it depends where in the country the team, so for in the local output, but minor league baseball isn't guaranteed to be a moneymaker for an MLB program or MLB team, even if, and some of them don't even own all of it. So that's, it's all by design. So, and the NCAA is like, why, nobody likes to give money back. No matter what, industry, what company, nobody, once they have the money, nobody likes giving it back. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to keep it all.
Most definitely. We mentioned something about the NCAA earlier that I mentioned before with the NCAA. It's interesting that the players, they're not allowed to make any profit off themselves, yet you can have same age college students. They can go make a YouTube channel. They can start making several grand a month, and it's perfectly fine. But for some reason, if an athlete tries to make any $50 off an autograph, the NCAA will hound them like dogs. Seriously. It's insane. It's insane. The double standard is ridiculous.
That's something that gets brought up a lot, and the pushback is always, the athlete is on scholarship, so that is their payment, which is something I want to get into. But yeah, there could be a regular student that's at a college on a scholarship that can start their own, like you said, YouTube channel and get paid. So it's definitely very, very hypocritical. There is no good reason that I've ever heard, for them not to be able to benefit. It's just the NCAA just makes up stuff to try to make it seem like it's a bad idea. And then, part of the country just latches onto it for some reason or the other. As far as, like I said, getting back to the scholarships, people act like between the scholarships, the cost of a scholarship is the actual, A, the value of the scholarship, and B, what it costs the school to give that athlete. So, for instance, if an athlete gets a $30,000 scholarship to a school, the school doesn't have to pay $30,000 for that scholarship. They're not getting extra teachers. They're not getting, all these extra resources that actually cost $30,000. If you just add 100 students to a college campus, it really doesn't increase the actual cost that much. Now, the housing, the food, the coaches, the training, those are actual costs to the college, but those are all made up either through the revenue generated or, from all the boosters that donate. So these scholarships, that's always the pushback. Oh, they're getting a $30,000 scholarship. Oh, they're getting a $50,000 scholarship. Well, yeah, but it doesn't really cost the school anything, and it's really not worth that much to, I would say, a majority of these students, for the simple fact that the schools don't necessarily care if these kids are getting an education. They care that these kids are eligible. We saw the most famous of that is obviously UNC, where it was just a joke. So, they're not, the goal of the football coaches, advisors, whatever, is to make sure that players stay eligible. It's It's not about making sure they leave with a college degree. You know, a lot of the good ones, you know, leave after 3 years in football and leave after a semester, you know, in basketball or a year, you know. So it's like that's a whole charade, you know. So that should be thrown out because that scholarship doesn't have any real value. Now, maybe if they do complete, you can argue that it's actually worth something. But the other problem is they try to get these athletes, you know, into these schools by any means necessary. And what I mean by that is that a high school football player only has to meet a minimum, you know, they have to basically pass the high school clearinghouse to get in. And that high school clearinghouse is quite low. If you want to compare it to the requirements, the academic requirements to get into most of these major colleges. So, you know, they make sure that these kids do the least amount possible to get in school and then do the least amount possible to stay eligible to stay in school. And that's all that they really care about. A lot of these kids can't even, you know, they don't have the scholastic aptitude to be able to even benefit from this higher level of education, which, you know, is one of the reasons you have, like, there is acceptance into colleges. They want to make sure that, you know, you have the aptitude to benefit from the education that you're going to get. And unfortunately, a lot of these players don't, because they've been coddled in high school just to keep them eligible in high school, and then it just carries on to onto college. So I just hate the whole bit about the scholarship is worth $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year. That just it means nothing to me. And that is the one thing that I would say, that's the one major push against paying them, because they say, oh, they get all of this. The other is exposure. And yes, I'm not going to say it doesn't help these players, but we've seen too many times in football, you know, you can be a D3 athlete, and as long as you show up at a pro day or get invited to the combine, as long as you show the skill and athleticism, you will be drafted no matter where you come from. In the NBA, you can be in Europe somewhere where nobody in the United States has any clue who you are, and as long as you're good enough, you're going to get drafted. Now, and if you say the exposure helps them once they're in college to benefit from advertising, if you look at the top 10 NBA and NFL players for endorsements, a majority of them did not go to what we would consider major colleges, or if some didn't even go to college at all. For instance, LeBron, you know.
Yeah,
Kobe back in the day.
Yeah, LeBron went straight out of high school.
Yeah, you get pro endorsements based on how good you are once you get to the pros. That's just a simple fact. You know, there may be one or two, like the Tim Tebow's of the world. Yeah, he was a monster college name, and so he obviously some of that carried over. But for the most part, the numbers show that the better you are once you're in the pros, the more you're going to make from endorsements. So
another thing that I've heard about is, like, with California being right now the only state that passed that law, that there could be an unfair advantage for those California schools.
Yeah, if this was starting next year, I would agree. You know, it's a few years down the road. It's already on the docket of all these other states. If it appears that this is really going to happen, you will be shocked. Well, you won't be shocked, but it'll be funny to see how quickly, you know, football states get this through their legislation, such as the Floridas, the Alabamas, the Georgias.
I saw that Florida and South Carolina both are right now in the process of trying to get that on the docket. So this might be the next two states to join it.
Yeah, it's now that California has put it in motion. These other states they pretty much have no choice but to follow because, yeah, it would be a massive recruiting disadvantage if only, a few states had it.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but, we're a few years down the line from it, so I would expect they're all going to follow suit.
I will say, though, all it's really going to take is a couple of major states to start passing this before it's going to get to the point where NCAA is going to have to basically go one way or the other on this issue.
Yeah, they're going to fight tooth and nail. They're going to fight California the hardest because California is the one that's done it. So, they're kind of like the guinea pig. And then I think all these other states are going to, they might start getting stuff on the docket just to be prepared. But they're going to see what happens with California. And if California wins, they're just going to, like I said, it's going to come at a breakneck speed. This legislation is going to get through all these states because they know that it's going to have to. So I wouldn't expect there ever to be a year where it becomes a competitive disadvantage.
What I'm most interested to see is if the NCAA does, since I've heard people mention that technically the NCAA could rule all those athletes in those schools ineligible, if that were to happen and other states followed suit, we could see them, like other states break away from the NCAA completely and form their own league, which would make NCAA basically obsolete.
Yeah, I think I would not be surprised to see that happen. Not only necessarily just for this reason, but the Power Five, so to say, for football, they make all the money. So I would not be shocked if all these major universities broke free, took all this money, especially the ones, like I said, the power ones that have that make all the money. At some point, the money is getting to be so large that they're going to get sick of sharing it with all of the other schools that aren't generating the money. That's just kind of the way the world works. If you make the money, you hate having to subsidize everyone else. That's kind of what we see, right?
Okay. There was another thing that caught my attention, and I'm sorry, I had a little issue there. Another major complaint that I hear most often, like on the internet forums and all that, is that the whole idea of paying the college players, would ruin the amateur aspect of college football.
Yeah, I don't even really know what that means, to be perfectly honest, because like I said, the players are getting paid right now. There is no there's just too much money already involved to make the case that it's a pure sport.
I agree.
When you're making billions of dollars, I don't know how you rule that these guys are amateurs. It's just that I'll say this. I think if I had to guess, and from talking to thousands and thousands of people and reading thousands and thousands of viewpoints on this, the people that are usually against paying the athletes are people that come from good enough means where they don't understand the difference in the lives that it could make to the athletes that are going to be paid. And what I mean is, yeah, Tim Tebow came out and said, I don't think, that they should be paid. I wouldn't want to be paid, blah, blah, blah. Tim Tebow comes from a very, very, very rich family. He never had to worry about his lights getting cut off. He never had to worry about, where his next meal was going to come from. So, yeah, it's easy for him to have the opinion, oh, yeah, we shouldn't get paid. That's not the way it is. We should do it for the love of the game, the love of the school, so forth and so on. But you're going to be very hard-pressed to find NFL